Hello everyone and welcome to this game, and this is the game you've been all waiting for. We have in this match the third player in the ranking, Fabiano Caruana, against the second player in the ranking, Anish Giri. And of course we have what we expected, a Sicilian defense. Fabiano goes with knight f3, preparing for an open Sicilian, and here already we have a surprise by Anish. Of course we all expected Anish to go knight to c6, preparing to go into a Sveshnikov after d4, but instead Anish surprises everyone by playing this move, e6. And it's actually pretty funny that this is signed as a dubious move by leeches. e6 is not that popular at the highest level. And now we go into a 4 knights defense after these moves. But in this position we all expected Fabi to go for this move, which is the main line, knight d to b5, which can actually transpose into a Sveshnikov after something like d6, bishop f4, e5, and now bishop to g5. But this is all not played, because instead of this move knight d to b5, we have this very surprising move a3. And this is some sideline which I have to say is pretty interesting. So the point of a3 is that the move bishop to b4 cannot be played. So instead Anish goes for bishop e7, bishop e3, castles, now bishop to e2, preparing to castle. d6 we have kind of a Scheveningen structure over here. And now very nice move queen to d3, and Fabi of course is still in preparation. And of course you might say in this position, well, why not the move queen to d2? This is played a lot, you know. This battery of the queen and the bishop, they work very well together, but in this position it does not work very well. And the reason is tactical. So black in this position would go for e5, and after the move knight to b3, knight takes on e4, boom! Knight takes, and now d5. And on the next move black will play the move d4, and this bishop is trapped, and in this position black has easily equalized. Of course Fabiano knows this and he doesn't go for this move, as you know, but instead he goes for this move queen to d3, defending this point on e4. Bishop to d7, f4, preparing a move like e5. Anish says no, I don't want this, and he plays e5 himself. The knight is attacked, so the knight takes on c6, and this is a very nice move. B takes on c6, not only opening this file for the rook, but also controlling these very important squares. We have the move castles, and now black needs to make a decision whether to take on f4 or not. Well, when you don't capture on f4, white has always the chance of going f5, which is closing the king side, and now you can go with g4 and g5, which can be very dangerous for black. So I think Anish in this position wisely decides to actually take on f4. We have bishop takes, and now try and think of a plan for black in this position, and I'll give you a hint. We have an isolated pawn on e4. An isolated pawn is a pawn that cannot be protected by another pawn. The solution for black will have something to do with this pawn, so you can pause the video right now and try and think of some plan actually for the black pieces. The right plan in this position is to try and put the knight on this square e5. You always want to put a piece before an isolated pawn, because the piece will be very strong on that square, because it can't be attacked by any pawn. Anish's plan in this position is to reroute his knight to be able to go to e5. And the way to do this is by playing the move bishop to e6, queen to g3, and now knight to d7, rook to d1. And now you still need to be a little bit careful, because a move like this is always in the air, trying to go for checkmate. Anish wisely decides to go for the move rook e8, and now a move like bishop h6 he can comfortably answer with g6, since the rook on f8 is not hanging. A move like queen to b6 could come with tempo, so Fabiano decides to just step away with the king, which is very natural. And now again, I would like you to pause the video and think of a way to make actually this plan work. For the moment, the knight can't come to this square on e5, since it would be taken by the bishop. Try to find a way to make this plan work. You can pause the video right now. The best way to do this is by playing the move that Anish played in the game, queen to b8. Not only supporting indirectly the square on e5, but also hitting this pawn on b2. The pawn on b2 was attacked, so we have b4, and now knight to e5. Mission accomplished by Anish. And now very interesting, Fabi wants to put his knight on d5. But for now, this square is defended by the c6 pawn. We have b5 trying to deflect the c6 pawn from defending this square. Rook to c8, takes, and now Fabiano goes with his plan, knight to d5. The bishop on e7 is attacked by the knight, so black needs to do something about it. A move like bishop f8 in this position would be very natural, since you're also just defending this weak point on g7. But Anish again finds in fact a better way to do this. He goes for the move queen to f8, which is also preparing this move and doubling on the c file. The c2 pawn is attacked, so we have c3 and now rook a to c8. Again, putting pressure on this pawn, rook to c1, defending, knight to g6, attacking this bishop as well as preparing bishop to h4, hitting the queen. We have bishop to d2 and now bishop to h4. The queen steps back and now rook to c5, attacking the knight, c4, defending, and now an amazing move. I'll give you the honor of actually finding this very nice move that was played by Anish in this position. And I'll give you a little hint. With black, you want to exchange the bishop and the knight. But the problem is that white remains with the bishop pair. So the solution in this position is to trade the dark square bishops. So let's say black manages to trade these pieces and these pieces. We would be left with this bishop, which is looking at his own pawns, so that bishop is pretty bad, but black would have a good knight. Look at this piece. It has a very nice home here on e5. So the only thing you need to do is try and exchange these bishops. You can pause the video right now. The solution is this move, h6, preparing this move, which is bishop to g5. We have queen to b3, bishop g5, the bishop takes and the pawn takes back. Queen to g3, attacking the pawn on g5, and queen to d8, defending the pawn. Rook to d1, and now finally we have this move, bishop takes knight, pawn takes back, and you can see the situation in this position. We have a bad bishop, look at this, against a very strong knight, because it is able to jump on these dark squares. First we have knight f4, attacking the bishop on e2, the queen defends the bishop, rook c7. I mean, Anish is not in a hurry. This is one of these moments that white can't really do anything, and the only thing Giri needs to do is to slowly put his pieces on the best possible squares. Rook to d4, queen to e8, improving the queen, as well as hitting the bishop on e2, bishop on f3, and now Anish decides to trade some pieces. We have rook takes on c4, boom, boom, and now boom. And Anish calculated very nicely that in the end he has this move, rook to a4, hitting both the pawn and the queen. In the game, Fabiano went back to f2, which is a blunder, but let's say white would go for this plan, and this again is a very instructive example, and I will ask you to again search for the solution. Let's say white wants to try and be smart, go for this move, hitting the pawn. Actually, this is a big mistake. Can you find the move by black after rook takes on a3 and queen takes on d6? What is the winning move here for black? Try and find the move. Yes, it's this move, which is rook takes bishop on f3. Boom! First of all, you need to know that if the rook takes back, this is gonna be a very nice mate. Just like this. And you might say, well, what if simply the pawn takes back, then I go for this move, queen to e2, and there is no way to stop this threat of queen to g2 checkmate. Let's say you try and defend this square, rook to g1, now we take on f3, and this is forced mate, rook to g2, and queen takes rook on g2. This just shows that in this position it's already very, very difficult for Fabi, and the fact that he played this move is not a shame, because black honestly is already in the driving seats. We have rook takes on a3, black is simply winning a pawn. Now h4, trying to simply unstabilize this knight on f4. Queen to e5, very nice move, simply centralizing the queen. H takes on g5, queen takes back, rook to e1, rook to a8. Again, Anish is not in a hurry. He's simply trying to put all of his pieces on the best possible squares and defend the threats by white. Bishop e4, a little bit tricky because Anish went for this move, rook to a2, And this is a little bit imprecise by Anish, because after this very nice move rook to b1, the point is that black can't take the queen on f2 because that would be mate, since the white bishop is controlling the square on h7. Anish makes the choice of simply stepping back and go to a8, even though this is psychologically not an easy move to make, since you kind of need to say, well, okay, I made a mistake, and now I go back. Now rook back. So this is a repetition of the position, and now a very nice move f5 with tempo, going for this plan, king to f7 and rook to h8, and that is simply a winning blow for black. We have rook to b1, king to f7, rook e3, and now rook h8. And after king to g1, can you find the winning move for black in this position? You can pause the video right now. First of all, I have to tell you that this is not a very crucial position. You can even play some move like g6 and you're still completely winning. Some idea you could play, which is a little bit imprecise, is to go for this plan. But the best move actually in this position, and this is also the move Anish played in this position, knight takes on g2. And after this move, Fabiano Caruana resigned the game. So I give you a few lines in this position. First of all, note that you're attacking the rook in this position. I'll start by saying that white can't take the knight because the rook is hanging on e3, and this would be an easy win for black. Also, something like queen to g3 can't be played. Now we simply take the rook with the queen, and this would again be completely winning. After something like queen takes and knight takes back, maybe the most important line and the most tricky line to see in this position is what happens after rook to g3, and now we have queen to c1 check. Note that, and this is actually very nice, the king can't take the knight on g2 because of queen to h1 mate. Very pretty mate. Okay, let's go back. In this position, something like queen to f1 would be critical, but then we have rook h1, king takes, queen takes, and this again would be completely winning. Okay, so what are the standings? And this is of course what you all want to know. Nepomniachtchi on 8 points. Nepo won his game today, which is a huge win by him, because this will probably, and I'm gonna say probably, make him the winner of the Candidates Tournament 2021. Because there are only 2 rounds left to be played. Anish is only half a point behind Jan with 7.5. And actually we have a huge comeback by MVL, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. He is now currently on 6.5. So tomorrow we have a rest day. I'm really looking forward to Monday, what will happen then. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.